you doing, sir?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. Right now, you can only see me, but once I spin my screen here, you'll be able to see the other guys that are in, and I should have a few more guys jump on.
Gotcha.
I want to be able to introduce both of you guys because the gentleman will get to speak with you either next week or the week after in regards to your confidence program. So I'm looking forward to speak with you also.
Good.
Hi, Tom. Nice to see you again.
Hi, you too.
Yeah, both of you guys have been doing some amazing stuff, and I'm looking forward to being able to have you guys come on and spread your gospel and your value to my guys here, and we can take in everything possible.
I really look forward to these meetings because I guess I'm rewriting the script, you could say. A lot of people, they think etiquette is this stuffy set of rules that everybody has to follow, and it's for like the wealthy, elite, aristocrat snobs, and that's not it at all. So we're going to go over that today.
That is 100% true, because when we first spoke etiquette, my train of thought was like fork and knife and, really snobby. But then when we got to speaking and you were able to tell me a bit more about it, I'm like, all right, cool. That makes so much sense. And one of the major things that stood out to me was when you mentioned the business owner that lost that huge contract due to poor etiquette of his staff.
Yes, and his bad manners and the way that he treated others.
Yeah, that was such a significant thing. And I said, you know what? It makes so much sense. Like, imagine going into such a big contract. What was it, $5 million?
It was $5 million, and it should have been a slam dunk. It was one of those contracts. They'd done a contract exactly like it for somebody else, like exactly like it. Like they were the head company to get the contract. It was theirs to lose, and they lost it.
Wow, that is crazy. That's crazy. After an experience like that, you get the opportunity to look back and said, this is the time when I should have conducted myself a lot better. This is the time when I should have known better etiquette or known how to operate better. Close of a big deal like that. It's crazy to miss something so big, so huge.
Yes, we are all in the people business, right? We are all, no matter what your business is, or if you don't own your own business, but you work for someone else, like we all make money somehow. We are in the people business. Jordan Peterson talks about it all the time. He's like, we are social beings to our core.
Yeah.
And with everything that has happened the last couple of years, and keeping us from one another, I've seen a huge shift in how we socialize, and people are struggling with it. So that's one of the reasons why I started doing what I was doing.
Let's get rock and rolling. First and foremost, let me just turn the camera. Let me introduce you to everyone. I'll let you give your own thing, and I'll have the guys introduce themselves also. So, gentlemen, that you guys have just walked in, for example, I have Kim on right now. She will be taking us over some etiquette stuff, giving us her expertise, giving us her value, sharing a bunch of knowledge with us that we can take forward in our lives and produce the best that we can. But I'm not going to speak too much for her. I'll let her introduce herself and say exactly what she does. Kim, floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. So I am Kimberly McCarthy. My handle online and on YouTube is Miss Northeast. I teach etiquette and manners. What I do is I help give you confidence and teach you how to have more confidence by teaching you the guidelines of social and business etiquette. So that is how what I do basically helps you, and it helps everybody. Because when you understand the guidelines of how you're supposed to behave or should behave and what you will probably expect from others, then it actually frees you up to be more authentically you. And then all that energy that you're spending on wondering, am I speaking correctly? Am I being appropriate? All that energy that we spend focusing on ourselves when we're out socializing, how do I look? Am I okay? Am I this? Am I that? When you understand the guidelines of etiquette and good manners, you don't do that anymore. I hear this complaint all the time. I want to be free to be me. Well, it frees you to be more you, because all that energy that you are spending on, is this the right fork? How do I do this? How do I do that? You're not worried about any of that anymore. It's like when you first start driving a car, you're worried about everything. How do I do this? How do I brake? Where's the seatbelt? What do I do with this stop sign? But once you learn how, it just becomes fluid and natural, and you just do it automatically. So I always say etiquette is a discipline. Just like you guys with your fitness, just like with any other mentality, it is a discipline. It actually becomes a way of life. It becomes a way of living. It is something that must be done consistently It can't be something, and we'll get into that, like into chivalry and gentlemanly conduct. It's not something that you can just turn on and off whenever you want. It becomes part of who you are. So that being said, on what etiquette is, I'll tell the story that Ken and I were discussing. So I have a client of mine. He's also a friend of mine. And this is the importance. I always say people don't understand the importance of good manners until they have bad manners, and then they see the repercussions of that. Because when you have good manners and good etiquette, people don't applaud. They don't throw parades for you, right? It's not some big, oh my gosh, right? It's subtle and it's quiet, but it allows for your interactions to go very smoothly. And it actually opens doors for you that money can't, but we'll get into that. So the story I have for you is a friend of mine, a client, he runs a construction company. He sent his head engineer to go and deal with some clients who would be building this next project. And this wasn't months later. So he ended up losing a contract that, as those of you who were listening before heard me tell Ken, it was his to lose. It was his contract to lose. They had done something exactly like it before. They were priced well, like everything across the board. Like he was like, yeah, we're getting this contract. I'm not even going to follow up on it. Like it's ours. And then he found out he didn't get it. And well, he found out about 6 months later through talking to contacts of his why he didn't get it. And it turned out that his head engineer was behaving quite badly to the people who were actually building, like the subcontractors and the other people who were on staff with the client. He was quite arrogant. He was condescending. He was rude. He had terrible manners. He acted as if he was above everybody else. And this didn't get back to my friend, the owner, at the time. It got back 6 months later after they lost the contract. But that is actually what cost them $5 million in lost revenue.
Wow. That's so crazy. You know, when you think about the magnitude of that, first, I don't necessarily want to use the word arrogance, but I want to use the word confident and unawareness at the same time. Think, hey, I'm going to close this right away. Then you run into that problem, that predicament where now $5 million contract gone out the window. But the great part about that is now, being that you got that experience, I'm sure that those gentlemen would never let that happen again.
But the engineer lost his job because he didn't want to change. So it cost him, I don't know what he was getting paid. I had it $150,000, $200,000 a year. So it cost him his job. So this is what bad manners cost. It cost that man his job, so that amount of money, and it cost the firm $5 million. And also, my friend has to rehire this position, and it's not an easy position to fill. So now he's also doing a lot of extra work that normally he would be freed up to not do, because hence why he hired somebody to do it, right? It's all part of being in business, of course, but these were things that my friend has learned, okay, I should have nipped this in the butt sooner. We had difficult conversations because it was my friend's responsibility as the business owner to make sure that the people representing him represented him well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you own a business, there's this rule guideline in etiquette that's basically, it's bad manners to correct bad manners. That's for like strangers, people on the street. Mm-hmm. But I have 3 groups of people who I will quickly correct their manners, and that is clients, okay? Because you represent me just as I represent you. Our family. So anyone you're leading, basically. So you all lead your families. So like your children and your spouse, you are responsible, as far as I'm concerned, as their leader, for correcting their bad manners and their bad etiquette. And then it is anybody who works with you. Like if you have employees, or if you are a manager of employees who sort of work underneath you, then you are also responsible for their manners and how they choose to represent, because they then represent you and they represent the company. Outside of that, you can chew with your mouth open in front of me. Like I don't correct anybody's etiquette or manners. People are frightened to death of me when they find out what I do socially. I can clear a room faster than an unmasked sneeze in a packed grocery store in the middle of COVID when people find out what I do socially, because they think I'm going to judge them or correct, and I'm not. I'm not at all. Those are the 3 groups of people that I am responsible for, and outside of that, no. And same with all of you.
Sorry, Tom, were you worried when you first met Kim at the mastermind? Do you think she was judging us right away when she told us?
No, I didn't think so. I was like, I thought it was unique and interesting, and I just wanted to know more, really. But then we had the mastermind, so I'm glad I'm on this call. But no, I wasn't. No, I loved it.
Well, thank you. Business-wise, I tell people what I do quite readily, and it's accepted because people understand the importance of it. If I'm out at a social event, sometimes I actually just say I'm a business consultant. Because some people, they get really intimidated. And so that's kind of how I manage myself. But that being said, so that's the story on the $5 million. Bad manners cost. We have discussed what etiquette is. So it is not something that is stuffy. It is not something that is just for rich people. Etiquette is an investment in yourself that is not about money or how you were born or how you were raised. I was not raised with money. I grew up with a narcissistic mother with a victim complex and basically a mentally absent dad. So you can't gaslight me. I was not poured into as a child, we'll say. I wasn't taught manners, etiquette. I learned a lot of things the hard way by doing things badly and then getting a bad reaction from people. And that's where about 15 years ago, I really started learning about etiquette, and it changed it's what has also allowed me to get into the rooms that we all get into now, right? Is I wouldn't be in those rooms and I wouldn't be serving the way that I am, and I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing if it wasn't for investing in myself and learning etiquette and manners.
Exactly. And we have a few entrepreneurs in the room here, people that work high in their job and just want to dominate life. So being on this call and being able to take this now, it's all gonna benefit us.
Okay, so, good. I hope so. And I just wanted to say men's groups are my favorite groups to teach. I guess I am in business myself. So I guess as a woman, I can have a little bit more of that masculine energy. I speak a little bit more directly. I'm a little bit more firm. But when I teach men's groups, I don't have to soften the dialogue a bit. Like I understand that, I can swear a little bit, men want to be badasses. There's nothing wrong with that. You guys, it's hardwired into your DNA. Men like to be badasses. They like to win. They like to dominate. And what I want to go over with you guys today, and it's just going to be a snip of what etiquette is. I'm basically going to answer your questions. And then if you have any more for me with the time that we have, is to give you that weaponry. Like I almost look at it like when I go into an interview or if I'm going into something, I'm like, no, like you're all here, you're against me. That's how I look at when I go into an interview. When I want something, like I'm very, very competitive. I'm like, no, like you're all here against me and I want to win. One of the things, and then I'll tell you, and then I'll get into your questions. But one of the things, now I'll make a joke. There's a fine line between learning about somebody and stalking. Stalking's felony, but at least it is here in Canada. But when I am going into a job, or if I'm going to look into somebody, or if I want to get to know somebody, Dale Carnegie was famous for this. He was famous for this. He would research the people that he was going to meet ahead of time. Can I ask you questions about your group ahead of time?
Yeah.
Age groups, what they do, who they are. I know you guys go to Toastmasters, right? I'll get into that in a little bit. Like I learned some things about you before I came for this presentation, because the truth of the matter is, and this is where I enjoy talking about men's groups, because I always say I don't teach ethics, I teach etiquette, and I teach people. We are all rather narcissistic in a way. We all are, not in like the definition, like to hurt people, but our favorite topics, every single one of you, including me, your favorite topic is yourself. Your favorite topic to talk about is yourself. Your next favorite topic to talk about are probably the people that you love, like your spouse and your kids. Mm-hmm. After that, I would say it's probably hobbies of interest, your pet. Our favorite thing, and this is something to keep in mind when you go to talk to people, whether it's small talk or for business, we love to talk about ourselves. So we like people who are like us, and you can actually get jobs because you are the more likable candidate and not necessarily the best candidate, because a lot of businesses go, this person is moldable and workable, and I can teach them the things that they need to learn, but I already like them. Whereas if you know everything and you go in and you're the best candidate, but you're an ass and you're not likable, they're not going to hire you. They're going to take the person they like. So
100%. And as a business owner, I can second that. I always say that all the time. I'd rather take somebody that is coachable, somebody that's willing to learn, somebody that's being a sponge, because I can teach them what needs to be taught, compared to somebody that has 10 degrees and is a complete ass.
That's why. So etiquette is a lot too. It's about learning how to be likable. You guys know what, have you heard about mirroring people? Yes. Okay. So write this book down. It's not an etiquette book, but write it down. It's called Never Split the Difference. And it is by Chris Voss. Chris Voss is
great book.
Amazing book. Chris Voss was he is the best hostage negotiator the FBI ever had. and he wrote a book. It's on Audible too for you guys. Like I have Audible and I have hard copy books. You know, if you're at the gym and you want to work out and you want to listen to something, get it on Audible. He discusses mirroring. Mirroring will change your life. So mirroring is when you mimic or copy how somebody else is speaking or their body language. So for it, and usually even you just have to repeat the last word or two in the sentence. So if Kendall were to mirror me right now, he'd go in the sentence. And I would go, yes, like, and I would give an example. I practice this at the grocery store. I practice this at the coffee shop. So when you're wondering, Kim, where should I practice this? And you're going to feel really silly when you first start doing this. But that is one of the things. So we like people who are like us. We are narcissistic in a lot of sense. We are interested in ourselves. So the best way for you to become interesting, because we all want to be interesting to others, the best way you can become interesting to others is to be interested in them. So that's why I'm giving you these cues. You know, these are people's favorite topics. And going back to looking into people. So if I am going for an interview, let's say I was going to teach a bunch of lawyers. I probably, while this dress that I'm in is quite appropriate and fine. If I'm going to teach a bunch of corporate lawyers, they're probably used to seeing people in suits or blouses, like more corporate wear. So that's how I'm going to dress. I'm going to speak maybe in a little bit more language that they enjoy or that they're accustomed to.
And just to recap, jump, that would be a different forms of mirroring there.
Different forms of mirroring, absolutely, because we like people who are like us. So we like people who look like us, they talk like us. And this isn't about not being you. Like I can mirror Kendall and still be me, right? Like if he leans in on the camera and I lean in, it's not like you copy every single move that they make. Like if they do this, you do this. And when you read the book, it'll go into more depth on that. But like, let's say you're on a date and she leans in, that means she's interested in you. She's interested in what you're saying. And then if you lean in too, well, then now you're mirroring her, right? So that's sort of the Coles don'ts on mirroring and copying. But when I go into a place, so I'm going to research the place. If I can't look into who is actually going to interview me or who I'm actually going to meet, well, then I'm going to look up the venue that it's at. And I am going to dress in a manner that is appropriate for the venue that I'm going to. If I'm going to a coffee house versus I'm going to a 5-star hotel. Okay, so even if you don't know who you're meeting, then I would say to dress for the venue in which you're going. Okay, but that's how I, when I say, it's not stalking, but it's, you want to look at the company. Yeah,
but makes complete sense, exactly. We're entering whether, a business meeting, don't know the person, find out the location, and, dress to mirror to that sense.
Okay, so let's say, Kendall, I'm going to ask you because I don't know, like, do you like golf? Or do you need some sport that you like you boxed, is that correct?
Correct.
You boxed. So if I were going to go to a social event and I were meeting Kendall for the first time, or Kendall was somebody who I wanted to develop a deeper relationship with, I would learn a little bit about boxing. I know nothing about boxing. I know who Muhammad Ali is and Mike Tyson and stuff. But beyond that, I know you guys hit each other, and I'm not like downgrading what you do. I think it's awesome what you do, but I don't understand it. I don't know it. But that's what I would do. And I would learn even just basics about boxing, because Kendall's going to like to talk about boxing, and Kendall's going to be a lot more interested in me if I show interest in him, right? Because now I am showing interest in a subject that he is passionate about. Doesn't mean I have to be passionate about it, but I am showing consideration for him and his likes. So when I say that, like, when you should go in and you should look at the website of the company that you're going to, or if you have a guest coming, like go in and have a look. We have social media pages now. People aren't hard to kind of, don't say you looked at them. Don't say you Googled them. That's stalkery. So you went to the university and blah, 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 and you did this, and I heard you were second place at the don't do that. Don't do that. But if you know a little, like I could go through Kendall's page and I would know, okay, even if I'd never met you, he knows fitness, he knows boxing. These are the things he's interested in. Okay, I know the supplement companies that he likes, that I like, First Forum and Truline. Okay, I'm familiar with those things too. These are all talking points for me. So when you guys don't know, I don't go into a lot of I have questions that I will go through when I go into, say, like a cold situation where I don't know anyone. But I try my best not to, and this is where I call them weapons with etiquette, because I go in loaded. So I'm already prepped with basic small talk questions that I can ask anybody, but I also know a little bit about what is happening, not in the general world. So I have talking points, but also if someone, like if I were meeting you, I know a little bit about you before I'm going so that I'm able to keep up a good conversation and be a good conversationalist. And I am showing interest in you right off the bat.
Yeah. And that's such a good point that you made. Like, I'm not sure about the other gentleman in the room here, but I'm a person, I just like to wing it. I like to wing it. I like to just show up and just go with the flow right there, just wing it. But yeah, that's such a good point, because I've never really stopped and thought about that. So, okay, cool. Come loaded, come prepared.
Yes.
Nice.
If they've written a book, if you don't have time to read the book, you should at least kind of try and figure out the Coles Notes of the book. If they have a podcast, try to listen to a couple of episodes of their podcast. So at least then you have some talking points for them, and you can show that you have shown interest in them.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
You will get a lot farther with people. I will jump into your questions because a lot of what I'll keep talking about these points are in your questions. You guys asked me some awesome questions, by the way. Thank you. So you guys asked me, what are the key aspects of etiquette that you believe are essential for men to develop and cultivate? They're pretty much the same for men as for women. This is what makes me different as an etiquette coach. I can teach you guys how to use a fork and knife. And we kind of already discussed this. I can teach you how to hold a glass and how to hold a door. But if you have no people skills, like actual depth, if you don't care about people and you don't understand the true meaning of having good etiquette, you're still an asshole. You just know how to hold a door and you know what fork to use. No one's going to invite you to dinner. You're not going to get a second date. Like, you're still going to have problems. There are 3 things with etiquette. They're basically the bedrocks of etiquette, and it is consideration. So consideration for others and for yourself. This is empathy. This is emotional intelligence. We're basically, when I walk into a room, just like I prep these questions for you, it's not about me, it's about you. Right? Now, I don't lower myself in any way, but when you walk into a room, it should be, you ever meet those people and they're just warm and they just light up the whole room? And when you talk to them, you feel like you're the only person in the room and they just make you feel important. Yeah, that's what good etiquette does once you master it and you cultivate it and it becomes a part of you. That's the person you become.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, who doesn't want to be that person that lights up the room, makes the person across the table or the person in the room feel that way when you speak to them? Huge benefit and place to be in.
So that's exactly. So consideration, empathy, emotional intelligence, respect. How you interact with others is going to affect how they interact with you. Yes, we are only responsible for how we behave, but to say that we have no power, I think is wrong. How we show respect to others. There's a lot of people, they're rude to service staff at restaurants. They go into jobs, they go into places, they don't acknowledge the cleaning staff. Every job I ever worked at, I knew the cleaning staff by name. I knew all the security guards by name if there was like key fob check-in and stuff like that. I could probably get into all those buildings without my security pass. Like, I could get places because of showing interest and consideration and respect, not just to the boss, but to everybody around me.
That is such a great point. We can go into restaurants, and if we were somebody that we met for the first time or somebody that we know here and there, and they are rude to the staff or rude to the cleaner, that is something that always stands out. And I've seen it myself firsthand, and I'm like, man, I think, the person got a little character flaws, for you to just treat server, the cleaner, somebody else bad, that says a lot about yourself, and again, that says poor etiquette.
It does, and it speaks more of you than them. People have also lost jobs. We're talking about jobs and business. Henry Ford was famous for this. He would take 2 engineers out who were basically like, he could have picked between either one of them. And there are still firms in New York is really known for this, but other places around the world where what they do is they basically make you think you got the job because they want to take your guard down. Okay. And then what they do is they take you out at one of the restaurants where they frequent regularly and they take clients. Because again, as we already discussed, you are now a direct representation of them and you are a direct representation of their firm or their business. So they will take you out and they want to see how you're going to behave. And a lot of times they will take out 2 candidates and they will watch how they behave, how they eat, how they interact with the staff at the restaurant. And then they will actually make their decision based on that. Yeah. And Henry Ford did that. He actually picked between 2 engineers. And when one of them kind of got angry and said, well, why did you pick him instead of me? He said, okay, I'll tell you. He said 2 reasons. He said he acknowledged the service staff every time they came to the table and said please and thank you, and you did not. And he said to him, he said, you also salted your steak before you tasted it. And Henry Ford took this as an insult. And this is again in etiquette and manners. He said, you think I would take you somewhere where a chef wouldn't know how to properly season a steak? And he said, and secondly, he said, I don't want an engineer who just goes ahead and adds things to something before he's at least willing to try something. He's like, that says a lot about somebody. So when you think about all these little things, and then there's Bugatti, who denied a king a car because he had bad table manners, but I don't think we have time for all the stories, but that's another one.
We'll save that for the next.
Yes, if you guys want me back. So I'm going to try and get through your stuff. Consideration, respect, honesty. So truthful, not deceptive. You know, we do what's right, not what we're told, we'll say. You know, it's about integrity, you know, it's about doing the right thing. That, and also for men, your word is your currency. It is, gone are the days, unfortunately, where men could have a business contract with a handshake, but it was done. It was done. And your word, and that should be, in my opinion, and like you guys, your men's group, you can discuss that between you. But in my opinion, when I think of a man of character, like a man that I want to be around, he should be as dependable and as consistent. And when he says something, as like, I should be able to count on that, like the way I know the sun's going to rise the next day.
Great point. Great point.
Right.
So some people should be able to hold his word to that, you know, being a man of word, being dependable, being all those things that you just said, 100%.
But that also comes into, if you can't do something, say it, right? Right. Yeah. So those are the 3 sort of key bedrock components of etiquette, and everything else kind of just comes up from that. If you don't have those, you won't have good etiquette. What are we on for time? Oh, we are running. I'm sorry. I will speed this up. Etiquette guidelines to maintain a positive dominant presence and a professional image. Some of this we've already covered. Your posture. Deportment is really important. So your deportment is how you carry yourself, how you speak. So your posture, especially with men, it's important with women too, but as a man, you know, shoulders back, chest up, your chin level with the floor. You know, you don't slink around on the outside of a room when you walk into a room. If you got to go and meet your boss, you don't hang out in the doorway. You walk right in and you shake his hand and you speak with some confidence. You look him in the eye. All those things show, even if you are a little nervous to meet him, life's kind of a bluff. We're kind of all bluffing. I would respect that as a woman. So I feel like men would respect that more as another man, that you're respectful to your boss, but you are not afraid of him. You know, so if you show confidence like that, you're not dominating him, but you're showing, no, I can stand here with you.
Exactly. You know, you're bringing that confidence to the table. Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So another part that you said, chin up, shoulders back.
Yes.
I say that to guys all the time, and I'll repeat it again. When you are able to walk around with your chin up, shoulders back, you're not just doing that physically, but you're also doing that mentally, right? You're creating that confidence for yourself. When you walk into a room like that, physically and mentally, you're bringing that confidence into the room. Imagine that compared to walk into a room slumped over like that. How do you think you enter the room better? You always want to enter that room, shoulders back, chest tall, bring that confidence, bring that fire into the room with you, not that slump, not that timid posture.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. Chin parallel with the floor. I did a real, like, if it's up, you look a little bit more, like if I were looking at you like this, I'm judging you, aren't I? I'm like, entertain me, asshole, right? Like, that's what I'm doing, right? Where if I'm down and I'm like this, like, I kind of look like I don't want to be here and I'm looking around. So like eye contact, over 50% of what you say doesn't come out of your mouth. So when Ken is talking about keeping your shoulders up and your chin parallel and walk it in, like, I'll give the example, like people, I don't know what it was like in the Cayman Islands, but here in Canada, it was pretty rough over, I won't get into politics so much, but it was pretty rough over the whole COVID scenario. I did not wear a mask at the stores. Integrity. I did what was right, not what I was told. People would ask me, they're like, how do you get away with it? I'm like, well, you know what I would do before I went into a place? And this is just tricks I used to do. I would play like my bad bitch music before I went to a store, because I would get myself all hyped up, because I knew because I did have tension and it was really, really difficult to do. But the other thing I would do is I would walk into every building I walked into like I owned that whole place. Like I owned that whole place. Now I was very polite and nice and I made eye contact and I smiled and I was not arrogant or rude. I was quite the opposite to everybody I came in contact with. But the mentality I had in every grocery store I walked into was like, I own this whole place. I own the whole building. And when you carry yourself like that, but then you are also of service to people, it's felt like we are all energy. We are giving off energy constantly. They have equipment now that measures this. We are constantly talking to one another. So when you carry that kind of energy, and again, your body language will change you. If I'm like this and I'm talking to you, I'm going to feel it inside. But if I'm like this and I'm looking you in the eyes and I'm talking to you, you're going to feel that a lot differently.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you feel a lot stronger, a lot more confident.
yeah, and I had almost no trouble whatsoever. And when I did, I just left. But like, just to give an example of something that I did personally, that was a really hard thing to do. That was a really, it kind of went against the grain, but it was something I believed in. And that's how I was able to kind of navigate through it, was with confidence and body language and getting myself in the right headspace before I went into a place. So I think Pete talks about this. He jumps around and stuff sometimes, and he's like, okay, I can do it. I can do,
Yeah. So remember that note, fellas. You got to enter the room like you own the room, but even before you get into the room. All right.
Okay. Are we still okay for time? Everybody good?
Yeah, we're all good for time.
Okay. Networking and social skills for men. What tips, techniques do you offer to help navigate social settings with ease? Well, we've gone over some of these. How to enter a room commanding with confidence. We just went over that. When you enter a room too, you don't want to have your head down or your head up. We won't have time to get into all of it, but there's a certain way to enter a room. You don't want to have to turn around to look at the door. You want to make sure that you're always looking where you're going. Because if I'm on my phone and I enter a room and my head's down and my back's turned, well, I've just missed. It takes less than 7 seconds to make a first impression. So one of the things I do teach people is how to make the best first impression. That is eyes up, head up, because people look at you and you don't really get that second chance when you enter a room. How to navigate a room with networking. I don't know, Kendall, if you noticed, but even when other people were talking to each other, I was hardly, unless I was getting water or something like that at our latest networking event. And I planned this ahead of time. I prepped it because I still get nervous at network events and social events. And one of the things I do is I remind myself that everyone else there is nervous too. And that the whole point of the event is to network. But so again, prep helped me. But one of the things I made a note of doing was my phone stayed in my bag. And I think I was only on my phone twice, and they were during breaks, and it was just a very quick check and right back in my bag. So my phone didn't come out. Guys, lose your phones. If you're on a date, unless there's some kind of an emergency that you think is going to come through, pocket or leave it in your car. And the other thing is too, just because we're on the topic, it's on the table here. This is one of the items that should never, ever be on a table. This, sunglasses, and your hat are my top 3 items. They should never, ever, 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 ever be on a table.
You missed this on the camera because the camera's facing me. All of the guys grabbed their phone and just took it off.
It's okay. But I won't get into all the phone etiquette again, time crunch. But those 3 things, gentlemen, should never, ever, ever be on a table. And that is the same for ladies as well. And their handbag too, for a lady, would be a handbag.
So quick recap on that. No phone on the table. You said no phone, no hat.
No hat ever on a table.
What was the last one?
Your sunglasses.
Sunglasses. No phone, no hat, no sunglasses.
Yeah, or your wallet, or for a lady, a handbag. These things do not belong on a table. Think of the table as the only thing that should be on a table, or things that you are going to use for dining, or for, the actual food and the utensils that you're going to use for dining.
Yes. You had a question?
I understand the phone, but wait, I'll just do it.
Because his question was, he understands the phone, but why the other items?
Your hat, because it is considered unhygienic. So hats were originally designed, think about it, they're on your head, it's sweating. And hats were also originally designed to keep the dirt out of your face. So if you took your hat off, it was dirty, and then you laid it on a table in which you were about to eat. It was the same for laying your shoes on the table for some people, and that's how they looked at it, is your hat should not be on the table because it's unhygienic.
Yes, correct. Take it off. Yeah. Wherever got.
Yeah. So if the restaurant you're going to has a coat check, it would go with the coat check, right? Because your hat comes off whenever you enter a building, right? If it does not have that, one of the things I do with my handbag is I'll actually put it. Again, there's time crunch. I can't go over all the posture things, but I hardly ever sit right at the back of a chair. So when I take a handbag and I know I'm going somewhere, I'll take a smaller handbag and I'll actually put it behind me. Okay. Or you know what? If you know you're going somewhere, you're going to be inside for a long time, don't wear a hat. right? So you want to start thinking about things ahead of time. And then your sunglasses, the same thing. Like they don't belong on the table. You would put them in your pocket, in your jacket pocket. If you don't have pockets, then you may want to take them off when you are getting out of the car and leave them in the car.
Very interesting, because I'm a guy, I love my hats. I wear a lot of hats. I wear the full brim hat. So, okay, new news for me. Now I got to change that up.
Right. Yeah. Wearing your hat in the gym is fine. Like there are certain places it's fine. I wouldn't scold anybody for wearing their hat at a fast food restaurant. But if you are going to a diner and up, you should take your hat off when you go in.
So here's my question. Like, I don't wear a lot of gym hat. This is actually the only hat that I wear MBK, but I wear a lot of fedoras.
Like fedoras and bowler caps and stuff. Okay.
A lot of fedoras, right? So if I'm going to dinner, I usually wear hats. So with that being said, now when I get to dinner, I got to remove the hat.
What if your hat is like a part of your fit?
Well, my hat is usually part of my fit.
That is only for ladies. Etiquette. So it's only if it's like part of her outfit. So it's usually only a hat that's held in with a hat pin.
Okay.
Okay, you're going to see very, very little of this in like Western culture. It's more of a UK thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, even if your hat is part of your outfit, it is considered bad manners, bad table etiquette to have your hat on as a man at the table. It is considered a sign of disrespect. And it actually comes from, if you want the history of it, because you did do the Modern Day Knight Project. Yeah. It actually comes from knights. That's where a lot of our dinner etiquette actually comes from medieval times. So knights would remove their hats or their helmets when they were amongst kings and royalty, and they would also take them off when they were among women and children or entering a church. And this was done to show it as a sign that they weren't a threat. So, and it was also done between a knight and a knight as a sign of respect. Like, when knights, you hear like they used to duel and fight, and you see the horses and so if a knight didn't show his face to his opponent and to the king or whoever the royalty was, it would actually cost him his life because they wanted to see the man and look him in the eyes and see the man that they were about to fight. Yeah. So that's where it comes from. So there's a great clip in The Sopranos, if you like The Sopranos, where Tony Soprano's at dinner. I can post it in my stories after if you guys want to go check it out. I absolutely love it. But yeah, if you like The Sopranos.
Yeah, definitely post it for us. I had one more question. What was your question?
If there's any books about etiquette, like overall.
Leslie is asking, would you recommend any books on etiquette? One thing I can say, follow Kim.
Yes, follow me. I have a YouTube channel and I'm on Instagram. You know what? Emily Post is probably my go-to. She would be like the great grandmother of your modern day etiquette. Her books.
Emily, what was the last name?
Emily Post, like a post-it, P-O-S-T. And there's also some. I will send you some because there's some men's books that are specific for men, but Emily Post will give you a generalized rules of etiquette because she discusses men's, she discusses women's. And the more then you know what should be, what is expected of you and what is expected of others. Again, the more comfortable you'll be when you go into a situation. When in doubt, basically, gentlemen, with your hat, when in doubt, remove it. If you're not sure, take it off. And that's that's how I coach my male clients. If you don't know, take it off.
All right.
Okay.
Done deal. Noted. Check.
Yeah. If you're shouldn't I, isn't, take it off. All right. Let's go through questions planned. So as I was saying, and we kind of touched through some of this with commanding confidence, you're going to want your small talk questions kind of pre-planned. Like you want to be locked and loaded before you walk into a room. You wouldn't walk into a fight without being armed. I kind of look at social settings and stuff like that. It is still kind of like war. It's kind of like a fight. You want to get liked. You want to be remembered. You want to make those contacts. So the more pre-planning that you do ahead of time, when something goes off the rails, there's someone's cutting their lawn. I hope you guys can still hear me. When something goes off the rails, then you know what to do, how to conduct yourself. Mm-hmm. They're not rules, they're guidelines.
Yeah. So say can you give us
great small talk questions. So You can some of the easiest ones, and these are the ones that if you win, like you said, you like to go in and you wing it. Talk about the venue where you are. So architecture and art. If you are somewhere and you don't know anybody and you don't know the host and you don't know what's going on, architecture and art in the room are always a great topic to talk about because they're very general. You're not going to offend anybody. If, oh, that picture is very interesting, the color, right? And they'll go, yes. And they'll start to talk to, how do you know the host when you go to a party? That is a great one because then they'll tell you all about, oh, I went to high school with Emily and we used to be in a sorority together and we did blah, blah, blah. Oh, you were in a sorority, mirroring. And they will just keep talking and you will hardly have to say anything. And you can actively listen and ask them interesting questions. And you'll know when you are truly actively listening because you'll do the least amount of talking the person you're talking to will.
Makes complete sense. If I could flip on the other side of that coin in regard to questions that you should not ask. For example, I've always been told, stay away from religion and politics.
And I did a YouTube video saying you can talk about them. So,
okay.
Yes. So it's it's guidelines. It's guidelines. Like I do not want to get into you can disagree with somebody when you're out socially, but you want to disagree with them in a manner of you want to learn from them. Like you don't want to get into that heated debate. I don't go right into politics. I warm people up, with these other topics. And then if there is some like the generalized topics, how do you know the host? Oh, the architecture's neat in here. I'll know maybe I find out they like sports and I'll mention something. Oh, did you know there's the Santa Claus parade next week? Like find out what's kind of going on in that area. Other questions I like to ask, like, oh, are you from here or did you travel in? Or I might say if I next time I fly into California, I'm thinking about going out to oh, you're from California. Oh, you're from Chino Hills. I'm thinking about going out to dinner later. What restaurants would you like? But people love to give you their opinion.
Yeah.
People love to give you their opinion. One of the ones I keep in my back pocket, if the conversation really starts to go stale, is I'm thinking about planning a vacation. Where would you go if you were me? And they will talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and they will tell you everything about where they would go and what they would do and where they would stay. And again, we like to talk about ourselves. We like to, right? But back to those questions about religion, politics, it's money. So again, I will warm people up. I kind of know who I can start talking to once I've warmed them up that way. And a lot of times they will actually bring it up. The last 2 times I was talking politics at my daughter's ballet class yesterday. Yeah. Right. But the mom sitting next to me brought it up. Yeah. And I fully engaged.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And I fully engaged. Right. And it was fine. So are these topics taboo? No. But do I think there has to be some emotional intelligence used with certain people? Like there's some people I don't care if you're on the left or the right, you can't talk it with them because they don't have the ability themselves. Like that's another question you need to ask yourself. Does this person actually have the ability to have this kind of in-depth conversation?
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And then if I do see a conversation sort of going off the rails, well, then I will course correct it. And I will talk about something superficial and I will let it go. I don't have those discussions anymore to win. I have them to kind of talk and listen and learn and see how we're the same. And that's how I have them. So if that helps.
Yeah, it makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
But I do actually really like those topics because I think the reason why those topics have been made taboo is because, and I actually go over this in my YouTube video, we talk money, right? Like we wouldn't go up to I wouldn't go up to some strange woman at the mall and say, hey, I like your Louis. How much did you pay for it? Right? That's rude.
Yeah.
But you and I might say, we're going to talk money. We're going to talk business. We're going to talk strategy, not because we're trying to be nosy or into it. We're trying to actually learn and grow. I actually had a conversation about gold and stocks and investment. I know nothing about any of these things. With my Uber driver on the way to the airport, coming back from the workshop that I met you with, we actually talked politics, culture, religion. I had a 45-minute, like it was one of the best conversations that I ever had with my Uber driver. But we didn't start that way. We spent like the first 10, 15 minutes kind of getting to know each other.
Working in there.
Yes, yes. Oh, you kids are in the Marines. Oh, blah, blah, blah. How do you feel? Right. And then he was kind of cautious with me because, of course, he's my driver. And then I sensed there was, he was an immigrant to the US. And I just said, and I made a comment, I said, what, Americans and Canadians, I said, we're very spoiled, right? Because he'd also been, and I kind of felt like I tipped my toes in the water, we'll say.
Yeah.
And I said, we're very spoiled. And I said, you've immigrated here. I said, you've been in the Army, you have seen things, you have gone places. Like, so again, I say it's guidelines and it's context. So once I knew so much about him and I kind of pressed on the situation a little bit, I'm like, okay, we can go into these deeper topics because he's quite open to talking about them. And he actually really enjoyed the conversation that we had. And he told me so. He actually told me at the end of it, he's like, it was one of the best conversations he'd had in a long time.
Nice.
So I hope that helps. You can do it, but you're going to have to use your own. Context is really important. You're going to have to use your own.
Yeah, that makes a lot.
Advice for men who want to enhance their overall etiquette and social skills: hire a coach. Hire a coach. Start with books. That book I gave you guys, that one on Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. It is not an etiquette book, but it's an etiquette book. It's an etiquette book because you are in the people business. The other book I will give you that I read over and over and over and over again, and I actually also did a YouTube video on it, and I say it is the best etiquette book ever written, and it is a non-etiquette book, is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you have not read that book, again, it's on Audible. If you don't want to sit down and actually physically read it, although I do suggest you get a hard copy because mine is all colors and marker, and it's,
That's way to go anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So good skills for social dating, be chivalrous. So if you're going to hold a door for somebody, you can't just hold a door once for somebody. And we talk about consistency. Like you're either a man who holds a door for a lady or you're not. Right. So you don't just do it once, and do it for your mom, do it for your sister. Like, I don't just hold doors for women. I hold them for men too. If I see somebody coming, like, it's just a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Dinner manners, learn them, dress well. I will finish up with this and let you guys go. 5 rules for a job interview. So these would be 5 major rules for a job interview if you're going to interview, or even something that you may want to look at if you're interviewing. And Kendall, you mentioned the very first one is don't be late.
That's right.
Don't be late. You should be, when it comes to business events and business meetings, you should try to be 15 minutes early. So don't be late. Be prepared. So like I said, be prepared. You're going to want to, if you're going in for an interview, you're going to want to know a little bit about the culture. Think about a business that you're going to interview in as a mini country. It's like a little mini embassy. They have a culture and a clientele that is all their own. So when you are going in for an interview, you want to be prepared for what you are going into so that you can talk that company's language and their culture. But you also want to find out about them. And is this a place that you would actually enjoy working? Is this person who's interviewing you, is this someone that you might actually enjoy working with? So an interview is also a two-way street. How comfortable you are speaking about yourself, knowledge about the company, conflict, and you want to stand or sit, tall, and you want to talk with confidence. How well you project the image that matches the type of person that they want to hire. Again, we like people who are like us. We've already reviewed a lot of this. Dress up one notch for a job interview. So if you are going to a place where in generalized like work attire would be dress pants and a dress shirt, but they don't wear a tie, I would recommend putting on a tie and at least a sports coat, right? Just take it up one little notch. Like if they wear a dress shirt and dress pants and a tie, well, then you should wear a suit to the job interview. Just one little notch, right? Because you're showing them, it's like on a date, like you're showing them your best self, right? And then we kind of slide back a little bit after that. So you want to make sure put your best self forward. Dress up a notch, smile, speak clearly, look them in the eye. Again, over 50% of what we say doesn't come out of our mouth. Thank them twice. This will set you apart. And so this one will set you apart. Thank them after the interview. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time. I hope to hear from you again soon. I'm just making something up, but like whatever you think is appropriate at the time. When you get home from that interview, write a thank you note. You can get them on Amazon or like even at the dollar store. They're not expensive. You can get boxes of them for $20. Just a classy thank you note, and like nothing with dogs on it and stuff. Just something that says thank you, and it's blank. And then that way you come home, and I want you to write pretty much the same thing that you said when you left, and then leave it, and then give it to your spouse or give it to a friend or give it to somebody who you trust, who has your best interest in mind, who is also really good at, picking up errors. You want to reread it. You want to make sure that you've addressed it properly, that the names are correct, that the spelling is correct. And then you are going to put a stamp on it and put it in the mail. Okay, because now you've thanked them twice. Because even then, if you don't get the job, I guarantee you there's probably nobody else going to do that. And they're going to get a thank you note in a couple of days from you that no one else that is interviewing for that job will get. And so even if they've already picked somebody else, if you go and if that job comes up again, or you go to interview them again, you may not even have to go. They may just offer it to you.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. They'll remember you by that one. Kim, it has been a blessing. Thank you very much for the value that you provided us with, and it was great having you on. And it's been amazing. I look forward to the next time we get the opportunity to chat again and learn more from you. So very grateful for your time here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I'm happy to meet all of you, and I'm glad you got something out of it. Thank you.